Today's video was sponsored by my good friends over at Spider Dude Comics. You can check out their links in the description below. You guys can save 10% off of any order by using the code JOURNOS10. This code never expires. And also, if they have any other promotions going on their website, you can always piggyback the JOURNOS10 to get that extra 10% off as well. You can search by Marvel or DC or certain ages like Silver to Golden, or your favorite characters like mine, Spider-Man. You guys could see a little bit of what they got going on here. Again, Silver Age to modern books. Stuff is extremely well priced. If you know me by now, you know that I only push those that I truly support and that I truly believe in. So again, guys, go check out SpiderDudeComics.com. You can also follow them on Instagram, and you can check out their YouTube channel by finding their link in the description below or finding their YouTube link on their website.
Ooh, this is going to be a cool book. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, all right. Mark Leneker, we got Digimon, #1. First Digimon comic. Props or flops? This book was released in 2000 from Dark Horse. Mark says, I picked this up off of a street vendor along with the newsstand Thunderbolts #1 for $5 each. Well, we're going to be talking about Thunderbolt newsstands in just a moment here. not regarding this. So he picked this book up for $5. In all honesty, I don't know much at all about the Pokey, Yugi, Digi, whatever. But video games seem hot properties now. So what sayeth thou, comic book canon? All right, let's look at this. Let's break this down. We got a purchase price of $5. Okay. Oh, by the way, this is a stock image, but I zoomed in on Mark's book, and I did the best that I could. It's got a nice little blunted bottom right corner. It's a white cover, so it's very hard to see in just the image what condition it's in. But I mean, just from what I saw, I don't think this book can be any more than maybe a very fine near mint. I'm going to say in the very fine range, just with that blunt that I saw. So we got a recent sale in a very fine range of $7. Last near mint sale, raw, of course, was for $11, but this was about a year and a half ago, kind of, in that COVID boom. So again, not too much moving on the market. You do have 20 books graded on the census. The last direct sale for a CGC 9.6 was $107, and that was January of this year. Now, you did have a 9.8 newsstand. Keep in mind, this is a 2000s newsstand, so a very small percentage of the market. Sold for $440, and ironically, that sold yesterday. If you look at eBay, a good amount of these books raw are up for sale. But asking prices ranging from $10 to $30, and if you look at the buy it nows, there's not many selling. So there was one that did sell for like $4.99. All right. Props or flops? Well, let's look at the census thing first. And I've told you guys this before. I've talked about this. Oh my God, there's 20 on the census. It must be rare, scarce. Guys, this is just a situation, in my humble opinion, where I believe there's only 20 on the census because nobody has cared to really send this book in to get graded. It's just the simple fact of a matter. Look, Pokemon is huge. Digimon is not Pokemon. And I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm some big expert. I honestly don't know much at all about Digimon, but hearing the name here and there, okay? I can't sit and act like I know. But what I know, or what I'm taking in from looking at how this book is moving, is that there is not a lot of people that collect comics that care about spending any money on this book. The people that do, I'm going to have a hunch at, or I'm going to assume, hypothetically, or excuse me, I'm going to hypothesize, taking in all my information. It's not just a blank assumption, that's not educated. I'm going to assume that the people that do care about this book, that do spend money on this book, are people that have some type of personal connection or nostalgia to Digimon. Maybe they collect comics too. But that's going to be a very, very small sample size of a larger market. Now, a 9.8 newsstand selling for 440, you're like, well, Chris, I mean, that's big money. Well, again, it could just be one or two people or a few people that are enough of the market where there's hardly any of these books that pop up that are willing to spend that money. And here's another thing. There's not even enough information out there to say that that's a fair market value. There's not, because there's no other sale that I saw. So that could just be, again, one sale as an outlier, where if we get another 9.8 newsstand that goes up tomorrow, who knows if it'll even sell for half of that? I don't know. Now, you can look at this in a very practical sense and say, well, Mark paid only $5 for this book. If he put it up for sale, you know, there's a recent very fine that sold for $7. Maybe he can actually make a couple bucks off of it. But I'm not going to give a book props just because maybe he can make a couple bucks off of it. I'm also going to look at long term. This book is already 23 years old. I just don't, not only do I not see a Digimon comic book collecting market growing, I actually seeing it possibly fading. I don't know though. It could stay the same. There is not enough evidence here to tell me that while even it's very low risk, because $5 is nothing to a lot of people, I have to give this book flops, because there's nothing that's telling me that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, this book is going to grab the attention of enough people on a market to garner a long-term return on investment.
Yeah, this is a tough one. James, we're going to have you kind of give us your thoughts on this as well. Don't forget, audience, this is a community segment here. We want your thoughts on this too. Let Mark Leneker know what you think about this as well. James, your thoughts on this first Digimon comic book. Give it to us.
Oh, well, boy, it's hard to tell someone that it's a $3 book as it sits. That's how I feel about it. And unless if it's paired with a bunch of other gaming books in a lot, you're not going to get a lot more. So sending it into CGC, that to me is a waste of time. That's for sure. But to your point of it fading, 100%. I got a 7-year-old who absolutely loves Pokemon, and she's going crazy. Digimon, what's that? She doesn't even know what that is. So it's nostalgia only to me. And I have a ton of Digimon cards that I've never been able to move. So I'm gonna take that. So yeah, it's a flop for me.
I'm going to jump in real quick because mine's going to be like, I was going to say the exact same thing James said. I have a 7-year-old daughter. She knows all about Pokemon. I've never heard her say Digimon once, right? I remember Digimon back in the day, the little digital virtual pets or whatever they were. But where's Digimon now? Like, what is, and I'm going to have to say flops too, with the caveat that I don't know much about anime or this kind of genre. So, Joe, you're going to close it out.
Yeah, I'm gonna triple disagree here. I don't think it's that's a huge score. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying this book's gonna go to $100. Don't get me wrong. This book will probably never ever be $100, even 50 years in the future or whatever. But I think that the $5 that Mark spent on this, I can tell you, I've owned this book before, and I've you said there's a corner blunt, my copy was near mint that I had sold, but I sold the near mint one for $10. That being said, Digimon has been around and is still around. This wasn't like a flash in the pan in 1999, like a lot of people think it was, because that's when it was at the height of its popularity, but Pokemon beat it out. That is absolute fact. It will never be Pokemon, hands down. It still exists, though. There's still a current running Digimon television show. There still are Digimon movies every few years.
Okay.
That being said, it is not, and it is never going to be Pokemon. Does it have a chance to reclaim some of that market? Yeah, maybe. But Pokemon's always going to be number one. I don't think anyone has any discrepancy about any of that. But here's the thing. Considering it has still continued to be a television show and a movie over the last 24 years since the show premiered in 99, and the handheld things were a little bit before that. There are going to be people that are buying this book for nostalgia purposes into the future. And that's including people that are getting into Digimon now or the last couple years or even 10 years ago that are going to buy it that aren't maybe necessarily in the market for it at this time. So for that reason, I think it is very, very borderline on this one. Very borderline, but because of the low purchase price and the low risk, because it's still a number one first appearance, it's not really going to go below the couple dollars that it's at right now, but it does have potential to grow in the future. I'm going to give this a hairline props.
All right. Well, the flops wins out. Okay. But I like that you're being your own person and not following the sheep, although we all speak from our own experiences.
I'm also younger than, I don't know, James, I don't know how old you are, but I'm 33. So I was around when Digimon like was popular.
I got you beat by a decade, my friend.
Yeah, you're not that much younger than us at all. Not at all. But Mark Lineker wants to make it known, it may be mostly floss, but I've got truffle fries. All right. Okay, he wins tonight. All right, next up, Christopher. Here we go. This guy likes the Thunderbolts. We've mentioned him before. We want to know in the community what you guys think as well. Be sure to put props or flops. I mean, we got 20 million people watching right now. Somebody's got to have an opinion other than Ken. Or KJ, I'm sorry. All right, here we go. What do we got, Chris?
All right, guys. We got double in here. Nori Jordan. He's been waiting a while for this one, too. All right. Nori Jordan states, a few weeks ago, I posted a props or flops with 2 books. We weren't able to cover those, by the way. So basically, he went and they were posted raw and he went and got them graded. So now we're doing this one. But yeah, he says, I think it's better to redo it now that they've come back from CGC. I have actively been searching for a Thunderbolts #1 9.8 CGC newsstand to replace the one I sadly had to sell. One night, I was searching eBay and saw that there was an auction about to end that had a Hulk 449, which is first appearance of Thunderbolts, and a Thunderbolts 0 through 3, which included a #1 newsstand. I almost passed this auction up because the books were described as reader copies. Interesting. I examined the pictures, and the books looked in great condition. I took a chance as the only bidder and won at the cost of $95. That's for the lot. With eBay credit that I had, my out-of-pocket cost was only $20. I'm going to talk about that eBay credit in a minute. When the books arrived, I was amazed that both Hulk 449 and Thunderbolts #1 were in amazing condition. I quickly sent them out to CGC, and hopes that one of them might be a 9.8. After 5 weeks, the books returned, and I was beyond happy to see the Thunderbolts #1 newsstand came back as a 9.8, the Hulk 449 a 9.4. With the cost of the books pressing, so we got them pressed, and CGC, I paid $90 total for these books. What do you think, props or flops? Okay, Jordan, first off, I'm going to say you didn't just pay $90 for these books. I'm going to add that credit because I'm going to assume the credit was because of a purchase that you got refunded. It actually doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where the credit came from. I know for you as a buyer, you didn't have to take the extra cash out of your pocket, but looking at what you actually put on the market for it, I have to calculate the credit in. It's only fair, okay? Because anybody else doing this, if I did the same thing you did every step of the way, I didn't have, what was it? $75 worth of eBay credit. So that $75 would have been cash. All right. So that's why down here we have total costs. Your total costs altogether, including the eBay credit, was $165. So that's how we're going to look at this, okay? Let's break this down. Hulk 449, first appearance of Thunderbolts, came back a 9.4. Current fair market value for this book, which, again, guys, you got to, books don't move like Whoppers, or Big Macs. It's a small sample size that you take the rolling average from. So it's always a moving average that can change from day to day, week to week. But right now we're sitting at about $145. This book is down a bit from, a little bit maybe just due to the market and the economy, a little bit due because of, we got the Winter Soldier show showing us all that. And now we're kind of moved on from that. So we're kind of waiting, but it hasn't gone down an extreme amount. I think, at its peak there, it wasn't peaking that much over $200 in a 9.4. So it hasn't been a horrible drop considering the market. Thunderbolts #1 in a 9.8. Now remember, this is a newsstand copy. Later 90s newsstand, not extremely rare, but I think when did this book come out? 90 was it 99? I think
yeah, around then.
Yeah, because I think the whole came out in 97. So,
Yep.
Somewhere around there. Current fair market value on this in a newsstand is sitting at about 165. The last one sold though over 6 months ago at 157. So right around that fair market value, but we haven't seen one sell in over 6 months. So we don't know if it would drop a little bit, gain a little bit. You don't know. That's why it's tough to really gauge fair market value when books don't move consistently. All right. Total cost here is $165 for Jordan Nori. Now, if Jordan was to sell both of these books today at the estimated current fair market value of looking at what these books have been doing on the market, his potential return on investment would be roughly $145. So looking at it just like that, I mean, you can say, well, that's a props because he's, almost doubling his money here. But you got to take into other considerations that what I like to consider is not just what he would get if you tried to sell them now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Considering all those things, and I'm going to give it a little context there too, I am going to give this a props all the way around. I do believe that in 5 years from now, these books are still going to give Jordan a return on investment that's going to be a substantial return from what he paid. 10 years from now as well. Now, I do think it's going to be tough because of a couple things. I think we are still seeing a downturn in a lot of the market. And if there's no talk of the Thunderbolts because of certain stuff being postponed because of the writer's strike, whatever, I think these books can, in the short term, drop a little more. Now that 9.8 newsstand, maybe not so much because it is a late 90s newsstand in 9.8. But once we get the talk coming again for the Thunderbolts film, or if we see more, whatever, hints in some of the upcoming shows, et cetera, even in this market, even in this tumultuous market, we're going to see more eyes on these books and more people wanting to put money out for these books. When we get the trailer, boom, 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 they're going to be back up again, no matter the market. But then the movie happens, depending on whatever, is it one movie and done? We could see these drop again. But I think we're going to be setting new floors along the way. So, and then, long term, they're going to gradually, slowly increase again, even if we see some ebb and flow. So Jordan, I know you love your Thunderbolts. Definitely props all the way around for me.
Interesting what you say that we're still going to see new floors on this book. James, or these books. James.
Yeah, I'm agreeing in the sense that it was so dynamic when it first came out. Like Thunderbolts was something that was exciting during the time. So, and it's got a dynamic, especially that #1 in newsstand, really hard to find. Great find, by the way. And then secondly, it's a dynamic cover. It's actually being, constantly, referred to and copied. And it's just one of those kind of like the X-Men versus Avengers cover style things that's just beautiful. So outside of what the market will do, these will always hold value just because even from an artist standpoint, they're gorgeous covers. So I think that they will hold. And I mean, the movies are going to, of course, help. They're going to go up. So I'm giving it props all day long. So especially at newsstand, I'm like jealous on that one, straight up.
Joe, thoughts?
Well, you guys both gave it props, so I'm going to disagree with. No, I'm just kidding. This is easy props. Easy props. Chris made some really good points about the ebb and flow of the market. We got the announcement a while back, so this has already come down. It's not like it's at a hype point right now. Certainly, like you said, could especially if it gets delayed again, could go down a little bit more. But I think the market has for the most part flattened out. and we're not going to see too much movement on the downward trends. And yeah, there's so much potential. You know, this team has not been introduced ever to the general public. This is not, you know, the Fantastic Four has had movies, and the Avengers, you know, they were a known team, and X-Men obviously have had movies and television shows and stuff like that. This is going to be like the first time that non-comic readers experience these characters. I can't think of the Thunderbolts ever showing up in, you know, I haven't watched too many of like the animated shows from the 90s and 2000s other than X-Men and Amazing Spider-Man, but I don't know of them ever showing up. So yeah, I think that there's a lot of potential here. You know, they're good enough, you know, as far as Kevin Feige concerns, to get their own movie. So yeah, let's see where this goes. Props all day.
I gotta say, like, I've never been into this team. I read a little bit on Marvel Unlimited. I just don't know. It's like, maybe it's like, you know, a bit outdated or what have you. I just wasn't into it. That being said, that's my personal opinion. And Jordan Norrie epitomizes the absolute insanity of a Thunderbolts fan. Like, he epitomizes it. And I think that goes a long way, because they have a hardcore following, which is crazy to me. But one thing, I'm going to give it a props, but one thing I do want to factor in and get your guys' thoughts, it won't be anywhere near the same team in any of these books. You know what I mean?
That doesn't look at Guardians.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. Guardians.
I said I gave it a props. You guys are attacking me, and I feel threatened. And Jordan wants me kicked.
It wasn't me. It wasn't me this time. I didn't do it.
I'm back. I'm back. Anyways, that's the only thing I'm going to say. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're all in agreement here. Props,
it's a props. No doubt it's a prop. 100% it's
now. It's a props long term. So.
I do want to acknowledge a couple things. Jordan did say that last sale was his original one that he sold. That sucks. But I'm glad he got one back. And I also want to acknowledge what he said about there's one listed right now for $5.99. Sorry, Jordan. I'm going to say that nobody is going to buy that. Throughout the recent couple of years, there was one that is noted as a $400 sale, but that's questionable. I would like to do some history into that, because it's a huge outlier. It is a huge outlier that just sticks out from rolling averages of what even in a newsstand this book ever sold. So I wouldn't even look at that $400 sale that happened like 2 years ago now as a legitimate placeholder even for that time. So I just, yeah, I whoever's, you know, that goes to show it's like people can list books for whatever they want. I mean, this book has never hit close to $600, and on average, it's hovered right around where it's at right now. And
Chris, have you ever like put a ceiling to it? Like, if I asked you as a collector right now, what's the ceiling? What do you think in, like, let's say 3 years, a movie is hitting, boom, or I got all the news. What do you think you think it's 250? You think it's 300? Where do you think it's?
I mean, that's a good question. I like that. I honestly think so. I believe that with the right FOMO movie hype, I mean, we've literally seen $5 books hit $50. You know, like Frogman. I don't think Frogman hit $50, but it hit over 20. I know that. That was a $1 bin book every day. And we've seen books triple. I mean, look at what happened with White Vision. I mean, that book literally, like, I think, if I don't remember right now off the top of my head, but I really do believe that
the West Coast Avengers one.
Yeah. I mean, I think 9.8s were selling for, you know, above 100, a little above, and then it went for above $1,000. It started hitting up over 1,000, 1,100. It was crazy. So you got, like, you know, 10 times that. I think with this, book, especially the newsstand, once we get a trailer on this, you know, I don't think, call it a ceiling for the temporary point of time. I think this book can easily double. Absolutely. I think it can easily double. I think it could be around that $400. And I think at that time, maybe if there's not many out there and you just get 1 or 2 people, if there's one listed for $5.99, maybe someone would buy it for $5.99. But I don't think it's I don't think that is sustainable whatsoever. I think, but I will say this. I'm not going to put a ceiling on this book for like 20 years from now, because that's a whole different ball game when we talk about just the comic hobby in general, because I think the landscape of comic collecting is going to change in 20 years as those kids that, grew up in the 60s and 70s are unfortunately going to, be aging out and passing away. And, but yeah, I mean, over the next couple of years, I do think this book has the potential to double or even triple in value specifically from movie hype.